The final episode of a Game of Thrones season usually ends in some dramatic way. It's not necessarily guaranteed to be left on a cliffhanger, but it is one of the best episodes of the season by far. So in this video, I want to discuss what the final episode of Game of Thrones will look like through the eyes of Jon Snow. Before we get started, I'd like to give a super congratulations to John Kilgrove, who won the last giveaway here on this channel. The next giveaway is for a $20 Amazon gift card, and that actually ends on January 25th. So you have from now until then to enter that contest. The best way to do so is leave a like on this video, leave a comment down below, make sure you're subscribed, go ahead and turn your notifications on, then click the gleam.io link down below in the description. That'll take you to a website where you can have all these bonus ways to enter the contest. Okay, so I should have prefaced this video by saying that Jon Snow isn't guaranteed to make it until the final episode of Game of Thrones. Now, he is a main character, but main characters in Season 8 are going to be dropping like houseflies. The average lifespan of most main characters will likely only be a few episodes. Jon Snow has the rare exception of already having died. Remember, he died at the very end of Season 5, so it would be a little bit of repetitive storytelling if he were to die again, but that does not save our Johnny boy at all. All of us have our favorite characters, and that makes it biased when we're making these prediction videos because we obviously want our favorites to survive until the very end. Jon Snow is one of my favorites, but my very favorite is Daenerys. So with that being said, I think it's guaranteed that Jon will at least make it into episode 6. Reason being is because Jon's main destiny at this point, for Game of Thrones anyway, for the television show, it may not be the same for the novels, but for the television show, Jon is going to be set to kill the Night King. In the physical plane, at the very least, Jon Snow will have a hand in killing the Night King. Now, it's obvious that Daenerys is the one with the nukes, so one would think she would play Kim Jong-il and she would be the one who destroys the Night King. But I think what Daenerys' dragons are mainly going to be used for is defeating the hordes of the dead. We know that there's hundreds of thousands of these undead, and there has to be some sort of way to take them out. I think if you have the dragons too close to the Night King, they run the risk of getting ice spewed again. So I think if Daenerys is smart, she would, 1, put armor on these dragons, and for 2, keep them back and sort of keep the army of the undead out of Jon Snow's way while him and, let's say, Sandor and a few other talented individuals get in close and try to take out the Night King. These kind of events usually play out in the second to last episode of the season. Either the last season, that was episode 6, and then prior to that, it's episode 8 or 9. Usually around that time is when we have the most intense part of the season. But with this being the final season, I wouldn't be surprised if every single episode, like let's say 5, 6, are the most intense. Like every single moment from those episodes are nail-biting. Now remember, these are my opinions in these videos, so it's going to be strongly theorized from my point of view or from how I see things from Sir Hunt's perspective. The way that this show is headed, I see us having 2 different scenarios happen. Like, it could be one or the other. It's not going to be both. One way is that Jon and Daenerys do survive. They do not have a child, and almost every single other main character, beside from maybe Sam, Arya, and Tyrion, are dead. So there's the bittersweet in that. We have Jon Snow and Daenerys still alive. They'll be able to love each other. They'll never be able to conceive a child, so the last of the Targaryen line will live out through them. The second way it may potentially go down, and this one's one of my more favorite ones, is that Jon and Daenerys, one of them has to die. So with that being said, Jon would sacrifice himself in order to save Daenerys and their child so that they can live on in the future. And if that's the case and Jon Snow dies, then I think it would be an interesting twist to have Jon Snow survive the major battle, kill the Night King, have us think that every single major threat is out of the way until we find out that Cersei, who's been keeping the Golden Company this entire time, has just been waiting for the moment for Jon to defeat the Night King, and basically she rushes in with the Golden Company and has them slay Jon or maybe even hold him prisoner. Can you imagine the chaos that would cause? Like, that would mean that Daenerys officially has nothing left to lose, and if she were to have the child with Jon Snow being gone, I don't know if that's the best way that she would do it. I feel like it would be super insanely bitter if Daenerys were to basically kamikaze herself with her dragons and just run on and just burn Cersei and everything to a crisp. And the only people that are left alive would be Tyrion, Sam, Arya, and Sansa, and, you know, a few of the other main characters. But Jon Snow and Daenerys are both dead. Cersei's dead. The Mountain's dead. Sandor's dead. Brienne's dead. All of these major characters are dead, but the people who weren't actually involved with the battle, like with themselves, are still left alive. Look, I could go on for another 15 minutes theorizing on different ways that Game of Thrones Season 8 is going to end. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to sort of show you if Jon Snow were to survive until episode 6 of the final season of Game of Thrones, what it would be like for him in that episode. And I honestly don't really know where to go. Now, this is interesting. I was actually on Reddit the other day, and there was a comment thread in which people were talking about how insane the last episode or the battle episode of Game of Thrones Season 8 will be. And if that's the case, then I don't know what to think. But these guys were getting at it. They basically had pictured or played out this scenario in which Jon Snow's on a dragon, Daenerys is on a dragon, and the Night King are on a dragon, and they're all basically at each other's necks. Like, you have Jon and Daenerys dipping and diving out, you have the Night King coming in from above, blazing blue fire across the field, and Jon and Daenerys are, like, trying to flank him on left and right, and that would be insane, and I would love for that to happen. I honestly think that if there was a season or if there was a moment for this to happen, the final season is to do so. If you have something insanely crazy like 3 dragon riders at once all on screen, what I'm trying to say is if that happens in episode 5, then we need something even more insane to top that for the final episode. You know what I mean? We need to leave out on a high note. Now, one of my favorite endings was the ending of season 6 with Cersei getting her just desserts. I am not a fan of Cersei's character, but I am a huge fan of Lena Headey's acting. If her acting wasn't so on point and amazing, and if she wasn't so talented, we wouldn't hate Cersei so much. And that just shows you how good of an actress she is, that she can portray a character so realistic and lifelike that you can actually hate a fictional person on screen. So with that being said, I think that honestly Cersei, she deserves death. Yes, like if you just look at it from, like a blank perspective, she does deserve death. But if you step back and you remove the fact that we all hate her, she definitely deserves a little bit of something more than death because she's lost everything at this point. I honestly don't see her and Jaime making it, just like I don't see Daenerys and Jon Snow making it. One of them has to die. So if that's the case, would it not be crazy if Jaime sacrifices himself for the greater good for Jon and Daenerys' cause, and then Cersei is like forced to witness this? Maybe she sees him killed by the Night King. I don't know. But what I do think is that we're gonna have some letdowns. So with that being said, even if we get that insane battle, it's not going to completely be done because Cersei's still the evil or the villain, the last villain that has to be overcame in order for our heroes to get that, quote-unquote happy ending, so to speak. So Cersei has to have a victory at some point. Now, I don't think that her and Jaime's child is a real thing. I definitely think that she's pregnant, but I think she's pregnant with Euron's baby. I don't think that the child that Cersei's carrying inside her is Jaime's. And honestly, if it is, then it's going to lead to a miscarriage. But I think that Cersei will end up losing that child, whether it's Jaime's or Euron's. We may never find out. But I think that she's going to end up losing that child, and that's going to force her into kind of not being satisfied with just letting Jon and Daenerys, not necessarily rule, but live. I think she may wait until they're completely done destroying the Night King, know that their resources are low, know that they just lost a lot of people, and that, they're not in the greatest spirits because they just had this majorly insane battle and lost a lot of their close allies. I think that's when Cersei's going to strike. And when she does strike, that's when she's going to potentially try to either proposition Daenerys to force her back into Essos, like basically saying, hey, look, I'm going to hold this person captive or kill and fight you on the field until we all end up dying anyway, and there's going to be nothing left to rule except for ashes. So basically, she's going to try to proposition to Daenerys to try to get her to leave Westeros. One of the perfect ways to do so is by holding someone like Jon Snow captive and then forcing Daenerys to leave, and then maybe Cersei will say, hey, look, I'll release Jon Snow if you do end up going back to Essos and vow to never step foot on Westerosi soil again. Like, we saw something like that happen with Tyrion and the slave masters. He tried to give them 7 years to stop slavery, and, Lannisters are known for kind of making deals like that. Like, Tyrion made some sort of deal with Cersei last season, and it was kind of like, you say that you're going to help, don't actually do it. So it could be something similar to that where Cersei says she's going to release Jon Snow if Daenerys vows to never come back. but then doesn't do so. This could, of course, happen, you know, in the last few moments of the episode, like maybe when there's 15 minutes left, and then there's like some sort of botched rescue attempt, and then Jon Snow dies during that process. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the idea of Jon Snow getting captured was brought to my attention by you wonderful people down in the comment section. Several of you had commented in saying that you thought that somehow it's not going to end completely the way we think it is, and Jon Snow getting held captive or Daenerys being held captive is a way that they could throw us off for a loop. And I do agree with that. I honestly think that it would be a perfect setup if we had this amazing battle go on scene. We didn't think our heroes were going to make it. They end up making it just barely by the skin of their teeth, and then Cersei shows up with the chain gang and either locks everyone up or just tries to say, hey, look, thank you guys for doing this battle. Now get the fuck out of Westeros and go back over to Essos and leave me alone. I think we all are aware that, you know, with this being the final episode, they're going to have to tie up every single loose end. But also, when you look at the theme of not just Game of Thrones season finales, but just shows in general, their series finales, there's sometimes a disappointment. No matter if you love the show 100%, you would marry the show if it was a physical being. It does not. You're going to find some sort of flaw with it. And I honestly think that the way Game of Thrones, one thing we may be disappointed in is we don't get 100% closed-ended stories for every single person. Like some of the characters that are left alive, some of their stories are left open. And if Jon Snow survives, I think his story would be left open. If Daenerys and their child is gone, if, you know, a lot of Jon Snow's closest people are gone, and maybe there's no one left to rule Winterfell, but there's also not a Lord Commander type of thing. I could see him maybe merging Winterfell and Castle Black and just having this giant fortress up north to protect. It would be insane to just have Jon Snow left alive and leave his story wrapped up without, you know, a conclusion. I think Jon will be one of the few characters who does get a close-ended story arc, and one of the way to make sure everyone is on the same page about where his final journey ends up is by killing him off. Now, like I said, Jon Snow is one of my favorite characters, and I don't want to see that happen on screen, but remember, this is the last season. This is the finale. There's not going to be anything after this. So, before when Jon Snow died in Season 5, well, we knew that there was darn near 3 more seasons left that we had to get through, and we needed Jon as a character, but we don't really need anyone after this final episode. We also know that these prequels are not going to be spin-offs, so they're not going to take place after the events of a Game of Thrones. They're not going to involve any of those main characters. We actually just got to confirm that the earliest one won't be out until 2020. So with that being said, I think they're going to Jon Snow is going to be one of those characters who we will all be 100% on the same page of where his journey is, and that may be 6 feet under the dirt. But you guys let me know what you think about that down below in the comment section. I know this is not a popular theory, and I know Jon's one of my favorite characters, so I don't want it to come true, but I honestly think that's one way to give his character an arc that we can all somewhat be satisfied with. Like, it'll be sweet in the fact that maybe Daenerys and their child gets to live on, but it's bitter in the fact that we lost Jon Snow, this main character who we've been with for going on 8 years now. If Jon Snow does survive and Daenerys is the one that dies, but Jon is left to raise their kid, I definitely see there being some kind of a time jump in that final episode. I would love to see, even if we don't catch up with every single character after the time jump, I would love to see an old Sam maybe being one of the last characters who's alive and he ends up dying of old age or something. He's on his deathbed and he's telling not the story of A Song of Ice and Fire, but finishing writing the book of A Song of Ice and Fire, the book that Maester Ebros was writing, where he was basically, you know, talking about all the events that happened after Robert's Rebellion. Sam will change the name to A Song of Ice and Fire, and he'll be writing the final pages on it, and then he hands the book to Jon Snow and Daenerys' child, who is either a Maester or who's at Castle Black, where Sam went back to the Night's Watch to become a Maester back there. You guys let me know what you think about that down below in the comment section. Also, real quick, while I still have you guys here, what do you think of the possibility of Jon Snow and Daenerys, like, bending the knee to each other? Do you think that since they're in a relationship and hashtag both sex is officially a thing, do you think they would bow to each other? Or do you think one would bow to the other? Do you think Jon Snow would ultimately suck it all up and bow to Daenerys if they were to have a disagreement going into this final season? I actually did a live stream yesterday with 2 fellow YouTubers, Indeep Geek and Azor Hype, and we actually talked about the possibility of there being a democracy in Westeros. You guys go and watch that video and let me know what you think. But one of the things that I kind of want to get your opinion on is, if there is a democracy, how do you think that would play out? Do you think that there will be almost 5 or 6 leaders of each region that sort of act as like electoral colleges, and they take their region's vote into consideration in the way they vote for the final leader? Or do you think that democracy isn't going to exist in Westeros because it's not that type of story? Let me know all of that down below in the comment section. I want to thank you all so much for watching. The like goal for this video will be 150. If you want to be entered into my contest to win this $20 Amazon gift card, all you have to do to enter this contest is leave a like on this video, comment down below, make sure you're subscribed, then hop on gleam.io and follow all those different ways to enter the contest. Super special thank you to Mario and Terry. They are the executive producers of these videos, and without them, they would not be possible. Also, super special thank you to every single member of my Patreon over on patreon.com. Without all of y'all's support, I would not be able to continue doing this. I want to thank everyone so much again for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's Reviews.